We're going to take you on a visit to the cloud now. And like I like to say, the cloud, it's fluffy. It's everywhere. And managing events that involve the cloud can get pretty harrowing and tricky when you're doing multiple events from multiple locations. Claudia Souza is going to be your moderator for this panel and going to take you on a whirlwind look at some of the opportunities and challenges that life in the cloud brings. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. There we go. Well, welcome to our panel. We're really excited. We have a mix of end user customers, vendors, everybody here with a lot of experience in utilizing cloud for quite a while, actually. So excited to share some of our experiences with you. Why don't we start with each of you do a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about why you started utilizing cloud for your production and how. Tyler, do you want to start?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Tyler Casey. I work for Caffeine. We're a live streaming platform, and I manage the partner engineering team. And so we sort of broadly work with our content partners to get their content onto the platform. Specifically for what we'll be talking about today, we run a cloud-based master controls and live production system. So we started using the cloud. We started with sort of OBS and Zixi and then moved into better things once we sort of proved out the need for cloud-based master control and the stability of a cloud-based master control, just to add an extra layer of stability, resiliency to the live streams on our platform.
Hey, my name is Oskar, and I work for ASG. Previously, I was at Shopify, so we did a lot of corporate events, all hands, everything kind of like, offsites and everything like that. So once the pandemic hit, we really had to pivot and see what kind of platform options there were out there. So that's where I kind of like reached out to ASG first. And then once the pandemic kind of like took all the layoffs and stuff like that, so I got let go from Shopify and reached out to ASG and kind of, was really interested in what they're doing, and then I wanted to join the team, and lucky to be, on board now.
Lucky to have you.
Hi, my name is Mike Beach. I'm the Director of Broadcast Engineering for Chess.com. I joined Chess.com about 1.5 years ago with some heavy time in the esports space. And with Chess.com and chess as an emerging sort of sport, they were looking to expand and establish a production system, process, workflows, all these various things for which they didn't have anything yet. And with kind of a new emerging market, we wanted to operate in a way that was agile and scalable, and hence we landed in the cloud and turned to ASG for their services.
And I'm Lena Tanaomi. I'm a senior product manager at AWS, and we build out the tools and the technology that enables all these guys to bring their workloads into the cloud.
Lena, why don't we talk a little bit about where do you feel we are on the adoption curve for utilizing cloud for live production?
Yeah, I definitely think we are entering the growth era of live cloud production in the cloud. So we're just exiting that time when it's just the early adopters and the innovators that are doing it. And now we're starting to see some of the more traditional content productions being produced in the cloud. Over the last year, we've seen some youth sport leagues do their entire productions in the cloud kind of as proof of concept before they kind of move into some of the higher stakes sports. Are we going to see like the Super Bowl being produced in the cloud? Probably not anytime soon. But things like highly formatted video like chess is a great candidate for the tools that we have available today.
Great. I know I've worked with some of you for quite a long time. I mean, Tyler, we started doing live workflows, we were saying, what, 2018?
2018, yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious, for those of you, and you as well, back with EA, right?
Yes.
So thinking back to where you started and what you're seeing today, Oskar, from your time at Shopify to now working with so many different customers, how have things evolved? Have they been evolving rapidly? Do you feel that it's changed much? Have we hit some roadblocks? I'm really curious to see how you feel. How mature is that, evolution?
Yeah, I can jump in. For the past 4 years or so, as we've been exploring both fully cloud native solutions as well as REMI solutions and sort of hybrid models, I think it's definitely changed significantly. I think the overall feature set is kind of the main thing that's expanded. So you had your base signal transport and kind of your basic functionality for a few years now, and it's been pretty stable. But expanding on what an operator or what a control room would expect walking into a truck or a studio or something like that, those are both the things that have expanded greatly in the past few years, but also some of the things that I think are still kind of on the way, and as early adopters have started to make asks of things and say, hey, I used to be able to do this, in my ACR or whatever they had, that's developed the tools available to the cloud space and kind of forced innovation from the providers.
Guys, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think a lot of what's changed for us is the tool sets are definitely richer, more featureful than they were 5 years ago. But also just I think our mindset has changed around it a lot. We started as a way to have these same resources with a distributed workforce, and now it's a lot of giving us the ability to try out new things, try out new formats for shows, try out new ideas for what to add to a show with, much less overhead than designing, renting, integrating, and then ripping that all back out like we would have in an SDI plant.
Perfect, because that segues into the next question that I wanted to ask you guys, which is, how has cloud broadcasting enabled you to explore unique workflows that on-prem costs and hardware costs might have made it cost prohibitive or even time prohibitive?
I think just speed, like the ability to, like you said, Tyler, to spin something up within minutes, reaching out to a vendor, getting a license, and then inserting it into your pipeline. That can be done within the hour, by the end of the day. You're not waiting on hardware to be approved and then shipped, or even if it's in stock. So just speed is a huge one, I feel.
Yeah, I would echo that. We've been able to stand up a brand new switcher in 20 minutes to test things while another show is live inside of a VPC. So that's something that's impossible in a baseband facility.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Lena, tell us a little bit about what AWS has been doing to enable some of these workflows, some of the innovation that has been coming, and how that has impacted their ability to really kind of switch on things on a dime and change what they're doing so quickly.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One of the things that supports agility is just the number of compute instances AWS offers. We have 750 generally available instances to use. So to their point, it's very easy to spin up a proof of concept or try something new at very low risk. If it doesn't work out, you just turn it off, no big deal. And then the other piece is accessibility. So not only the tools that we offer natively on AWS, but also our extensive partner network of over 130,000 partners on AWS really mean that you don't have to be a huge content production house anymore to produce high quality content and make that available to millions of viewers if you need to. So those are the two main ones, I would say.
Great. I want to talk a little bit about the challenges you have all faced. In the early phases of leveraging cloud, we always talked about, bandwidth and timing and things of that nature. I feel like the technology is there now. I think that we now are facing more, what does using this technology mean? How do we engage with our audiences? How do we leverage what we're doing on-prem and what we're doing remotely, a lot of the hybrid? So tell me about some of the challenges around that, about hybrid workflows, about staffing. What other things are you finding as challenges, or did you find as a challenge that you overcame?
I think for us, like, we already had pretty large, like, infrastructure DevOps kind of teams because we're a platform. But there's a lot of the sort of live troubleshooting that, like, I was a broadcast engineer before working on trucks. It just becomes intuition. If a signal is flickering a certain way, you know it's a cable length problem or equalization or whatever. And so getting back to that point with cloud workflows where you have enough time and enough reps in where you can glance at a problem and know exactly where to start looking. I think it took a little bit of time, but we're there now, and it's been great.
Yeah, I think for, I guess, challenges, like, depending on your background, for myself, like, networking was a huge one. You know, working in a corporate kind of AV world and then stepping into cloud, you're doing a lot more IT networking related things. So that was, you know, my personal challenge, and it's still kind of, you know, getting better and better. But, you know, the way you kind of like hire your staff, you know, part of your question is you're kind of focused now on a wider range of skill sets that you're looking for your team.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that, and with regards to staffing, in that you're looking for both kind of a traditional broadcast experience, people who have worked inside of baseband facilities and on trucks, on sporting events, things like that. But you're also now exploring more IT professional, more DevOps, and kind of the ability to deploy unique solutions and tack onto your cloud systems that you already have. It becomes a lot easier to hang unique services that you can develop yourself, or there's additional challenges there in terms of finding, like you said, finding out problems and troubleshooting something very quickly. So it's definitely a learning curve, but I think as soon as you start to get into it and it starts to become that habit, that repetition, that you immediately start to feel the benefits of being able to just troubleshoot every single signal from one computer and being able to tackle things very, very quickly.
How challenging has it been to find that new talent that is flexible, that has the broadcast side as well as the IT side? Are you finding you're having to kind of homegrown your own talent, or have you found, you know, a way to get talent for those, you know, specific needs?
I think it's a mix of both. I think definitely I would say that as we've been hiring, since I joined chess.com, we have 4x our broadcast staff. So we were in a pretty massive hiring phase moving forward over the last year. It's definitely been a combination. We've been looking for leadership roles, people who have been inside of the industry for a long time, kind of know how a broadcast needs to be built from start to finish, but then also finding individuals who have the experience on the networking side, or maybe come at problems a little differently from what a traditional kind of broadcast engineer would start and finish on. It's presented its own unique challenges in terms of interviewing candidates and finding people, because this skill set can be so broad. You can teach broadcast to an IT professional, or you can teach IT to a broadcast professional. It just ultimately comes down to, like, I guess it really dramatically comes down to culture and what makes sense for your own team, because there are so many skill sets that can be adopted into a cloud workflow.
Yeah, I think that's a huge challenge facing our entire industry. Where do we get the next talent? How do we train them? So I appreciate even the efforts that this group is making and that John Scheik's making to bring more people into our industry, because that's not going to change. A lot of us are hoping to retire sooner than later. Not that soon. And we need to find the next generation that are going to come in and that are going to adopt, especially that flexibility, the curiosity, the desire to try things in a new way and to really explore what can be done. Tyler, I think you wanted to add to that before.
Oh, sure. Most of our staffing has been sort of homegrown, home-trained. We've found a lot of success with people who are very curious operators who knew a lot about kind of the actual production of it, but weren't as skilled, and they didn't come from a broadcast or an IT kind of perspective. And then we were fortunate enough to have a lot of the talent inside to cross-train from different departments to get to a good place. So.
And Lena, even though, sorry, Oskar, go ahead first.
I was going to say also, to foster growth, it is important to have kind of like a well-balanced team where, I'm good in X, Y, and Z, but then we have, other people on our cloud team that are like just superstars in like the networking and the DevOps side. So being able to kind of like see your team and, pinpoint the strengths of everybody and use those and then allow that team to work together so that everybody grows, collectively.
Yeah, that is so important. For us, we're always trying to foster that curiosity that, let's share what we're learning. And there's so many new companies and new technologies coming out. And obviously, the biggest benefit, or one of the biggest benefits of these cloud workflows is that it is flexible. You're using this switcher today, you can pull it out and use that one tomorrow. You're not trapped into the old hardware model where what you've got is what you're stuck with. But with that comes the challenges that the old adage of you're always learning is beyond true. We are constantly being bombarded with new products, new possibilities, but you really can't utilize them if you don't have the time to learn them, to test the interoperability, to really put it through its paces. So we've adopted a model where we'll assign a couple engineers to anything new, and those two will go out and just put it through its paces and then share the information with the others, and then everybody goes around and tries it. But I'm curious at AWS. I mean, you guys are huge and you're always recruiting and trying to find more talent. Have you seen a change in what kind of people are being recruited and, talent now with media and entertainment being a bigger focus than it used to be?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that we offer is a mix of expertise. So we have a lot of folks that are solutions architects that come from a very traditional broadcast experience. They've worked with many of you, actually. And we recruit them for that knowledge to know what does a good broadcast workflow look like? What does a good high-quality content production look like so that they can teach us? But then we have the more traditional IT, networking, cloud knowledge to combine with that. So it's really a mix. It's exactly what everyone else up here said. A lot of it we hired for the cloud or networking knowledge, and then we teach them broadcast or vice versa.
Makes sense. So looking ahead, a few years ago and even into last year, no matter where you went at NAB, IBC, everything was cloud, 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 cloud. Now everything is AI, AI, AI. There's always a trend. There's always something up and coming. But I'm curious what you guys are excited about, what you see out in the horizon, whether it's more innovation from current vendors, whether it's new vendors or altogether new technologies. What's exciting for you for the year ahead?
I'm genuinely more interested to see more cloud products come out, more distributed kind of models rather than a straight like lift and shift from traditional broadcast into the cloud. We're still looking for some better solutions around comms and some audio stuff that I think will be coming in the next year or two.
Yeah, I think that's similarly, I'm excited to see more and more vendors are starting to get into cloud production and offer solutions, very tailored solutions. I think that's something that's particularly still growing in the cloud space, and that there are a lot of these full service platforms that have come out and say, hey, we can do 80% of your workflow. But I think there's more to be serviced and more to be explored in terms of the kind of pick and choose model that most studios and trucks have operated under, where we're just going to go get the best for this one item. We're going to go and piecemeal all these individual services together to create the solution that we ultimately want. And I think that you're starting to see more and more vendors get into that mindset and say, hey, we're just going to offer really good multi-viewing solutions. We're just going to offer really good comm solutions, rather than we're going to do comms, multi-viewers, switching, graphics, everything.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And then obviously like AI and machine learning, it's a little different in how you use it, I guess, in a live production. That'll be interesting if there is, companies out there that'll kind of adopt creative ways of doing live production. That's, from interesting to see what's going to happen there.
Lena, what are you excited about in the horizon?
Oh boy, that's a great question. There's so much. Definitely, we're seeing Gen AI be a huge focus. So I'm excited to see where that's going to lead in the media and entertainment business.
Very, very cool. I do want to talk a little bit about a lot of people think that many customers went to cloud production, especially live production, specifically due to COVID. I know it is true in a lot of cases, like you were saying, Oskar, with Shopify, but I know in other cases, Mike, you were saying this was always how you worked. So you do some things just based on the fact that your operators or your talent are distributed geographically all over the world, but I know you also do actual large live events, right, where you're actually still having that hybrid of having cameras on-prem and such. So how do you deal with the decisions? Because now that manufacturers have done a better job of having things that are available in either manner. You can have their cloud-based switcher or their on-prem switcher, and on to all of the different pieces of the production ecosystem. How do you decide what goes where? Is it purely technical? Is it financial? How is it that you make some of those decisions?
That's a good question. I think when we're exploring the idea of a live event or some sort of hybrid event, one of the tenets that we operated under when we were first exploring our cloud solution, so we are a fully native cloud solution. We have no facility anywhere. We wanted to establish what we believe our largest mold is. And so what is the largest of the shows that we could possibly operate? And let's make sure that everything we do fits into that. And for us, that looked like if 95% of our shows are completely cloud-based, let's make sure that everything we do lands to our cloud control room. Let's make sure when our operators sign on each day and they're going to put on a show that it's familiar and comfortable to them every single time. So there's no, for me philosophically, there's no huge benefit to say, all right, the switcher is going to be on site this time because we just did 200 shows, over the past 7 months with the switcher in the cloud. So why change that? So I think for us, it occasionally comes down to financial and things like that, but primarily I think a consistent operator experience, a consistent engineering experience. I think that what's really beneficial and why kind of the REMI and hybrid models have become so popular and now the cloud model is you can create that consistency no matter where you are in the world, how you're pulling your signals in. Eventually it's going to hit an operator, it's going to hit a multi-view, and a producer, a TD, an A1 is going to feel really comfortable because they've done it before and they've done it a bunch of times.
Absolutely makes sense. Do either of you have a feeling about that as far as some of these decisions? Have they changed over the years of what you choose to keep where? Is it flexible, or do you also adopt a model that you tend to use as your template and rinse and repeat?
We have some workflows that have been the same since we started using AMP, I guess, so about a year. Others are built sort of as needed. In general, I live in Long Beach outside of LA, and I like to avoid traffic, so we do as much virtually as we can and sort of built to tailor the needs of a given day.
All right, now I'm going to ask the tough question, which is around the economics of cloud. So having been doing this for what feels like a lot of years already, one of the first things that people say to me immediately is, it's cheaper, right? We're coming to this because it's cheap. And I always cringe a little bit about that because to me, some of the biggest benefits is the flexibility. It's, I like to use kind of a little bit of a corny model of when you lease a vehicle. So if you lease a vehicle for 3 years, by the time you're at the end of your lease, you're really driving an older, that sounds entitled, an older vehicle that's 3 years. But imagine if every time you got into your car and you turned on the ignition, you were driving the very latest model of that car. And that's how I feel about our virtual production control rooms, because we're always trying new technologies and vendors are always continuously, and AWS and Google, and everybody's continuously improving what they have. Every time you turn on that system, you can have something just a little bit better. So what have you seen as like the primary benefits? Have you found an economic benefit to it? Or is it kind of even with what you would have spent otherwise had you done more traditional on-prem, had you been able to have a location? Or is it really not about that side at all and it's all about the innovation?
It's a little bit of both. I think what's nice when you mention flexibility is that there is flexibility in your pricing forecasting. So if you're putting together a budget, your cloud services can be, very on demand, very much, I know that this show running over 3 days is going to cost X dollar. It's also, you can choose to opt a more traditional subscription or kind of base cost where you can assume everything is always running. You can say, this is my, my bottom line, and anything that we're going to spin up beyond that is going to add to that and is going to be ad hoc to a specific show. So I think cloud gets mentioned in flexibility a lot, and I think that it's oftentimes flexibility and scalability in terms of, like you said, innovation technology, but I think they're an underutilized and under-talked about concept is the flexibility and its cost. So I would say that for us, if we were to do the same volume of shows out of a traditional facility, it would definitely be more expensive, much more expensive for the way that we operate. But I could say also that I've been other places where it may not be more expensive. It may not be more expensive to be on site, and the cloud actually would be, your biggest cost driver. So it varies, but you have the ability to control that variance.
Can I add something to that? So we've seen with some of our customers that are more traditional on-prem content producers have their master control rooms be underutilized most of the time, up to 40% of the time. So think about all that hardware that you've invested in, but it's usually just sitting there. And it's the technology, as you mentioned, is moving so fast. In 2 years, it could be completely obsolete, but you've invested in it already. Like, you're stuck with it. So it does allow our customers to kind of run a hybrid environment and not over-provision their master control rooms to that point to where they're just wasting money.
Yeah.
I think also, with the hybrid environment, you need to consider the cost of your edge devices and getting signals to the cloud. There's definitely certain, customers that get a little bit of a sticker shock when they see, how much it's going to cost for their signals to get up there to that, virtual master control or, vision mixer or whatever. So there's, certain things that you expect to be expensive and other things that you didn't think, too deeply about yet.
Yeah, it certainly is cheaper for us. We would have to lease a building to put it in just to start with, and then you have to do the tenant improvements and build out, and it adds huge time and cost and complexity. But again, that wasn't why we went that way. It was really more for the distributed workforce that we already had.
Well, it's nice to see the different approaches that are being applied to how to go to the cloud. So it's definitely different for customers that already have large on-prem presence to then have to migrate to the cloud versus I feel that sometimes the customers that don't yet have that history and that legacy, it's a little bit easier to make the jump because you are taking into consideration the building. With some of the more traditional customers, it's not like you can just overnight get rid of your building because you decided to do everything in the cloud. But with the way that the workforces are now more distributed and the challenge of people not wanting to go back into an office environment 7 days a week, I think having the ability to leverage cloud production is only going to get better, and it's only going to enable more things in the future. So thank you all, and I look forward to next year and seeing how far we've come in a year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.